Well, let's talk and drive and share thoughts on what? Let's share thoughts on how AI is going to change the world. Now, it's not like I am the utmost expert, but I certainly listen and think about it. And I think out loud as well, so you're kind of doing me the favor of allowing me to encapsulate some of my thoughts. And that's how I think. It's different than some other people. I think out loud. And this should be interesting because this isn't my first time going through this and trying to encapsulate my thoughts. But a third time's a charm. This is going to be good. So, the way that I let's do AI and jobs. The way I think about it is thinking about my mother's job 20, 30 years ago. She did medical records, and it was it's like, has that job gone away? No. I don't know for sure, but there's a possibility that there are more people than ever doing that job. I don't know. Because in my mind, there's so much more records being kept. And why are they being kept? Why is there so many more records? Maybe it's because the technology itself became so easy that they decided, well, we're going to do more of it. We're going to keep this type of record and this type of record. And then the insurance is going to go, well, we need this record and this. And there's so much record taking. And then they added, like now the doctors do this extra amount of records. Back in her day, I remember vividly this image of her with these folders, like these manila type folders, and you'd go in and you have these stacks and stacks of filing cabinets, and like you insert it here, you do this, and that was the type of job. Did that job go away? No, but did what she did completely change because of technology, because of the internet, because of emails, because of just computers in general and technology? Yes, it like transformed and became so different. So I believe, and I've heard other people mention this, that what we are going to do, your job is going to be transformed. Will it go away? No. Will you lose your job because you don't switch? You're like, no, I don't know how to use email. Like, no, like you don't hear people in most office jobs ever say that. You can't say that. You can't say, no, I refused to adapt and I'm not going to do email, because they're just like, well, this may not be for you. And some of those people, maybe they lost their jobs or they just retired. They're like, I'm out of the workforce, so I'm going to do something else, That's fine. Like the job of a lawyer, the minute-to-minute or hour-to-hour aspects of their day, regardless of technology or because of technology, it just looks different. Like it's completely different. Just like my mom's medical records like that profession just looks different. I believe that pretty certain of this, most all jobs will just look different in the future. But will they go away? No. Will some of them? Okay. If you say that a job in your mind is someone that's doing this specific sets of actions, is that going to, does that go away? Yes. There are going to be lots of cases of that. If what you consider a job of a specific set of actions going away, then yes. But a role, what someone does, is that going away? Sorry, I've got to take a moment to put in the address that I'm going to. There we go. Didn't want to forget that. Okay. So I guess it's framing. In my mind, most won't be going away. And in fact, some of them will just become just like how much technology and the ease of keeping the records was no longer writing it out and all the papers and all the like photocopying and all the security on physical assets and the big storehouses of stuff and having to mail things to different places. And then when you took away a lot of those roadblocks, then all of a sudden they started to do more in that world. I will give an example that I find interesting. It is a Sunday, so we'll keep it somewhat related to a Sunday theme, and it's on the subject of family history, genealogy, connecting to your ancestors. So, the world of AI, let's before we get into that, is going to look very agentic. The future is agentic, I've heard someone say. The future is AI agents, little clients that go out and do things for us, right? Agents, assistants. Let's call it assistants. That's the technical term they may use a lot is agents, but let's call it assistants, these little AI assistants. I think I could easily paint a picture of how many jobs in the future will be the realm of operating assistants. Like, your job is to work at coordinating the efforts of all of these assistants and the creativity and the planning of like, okay, how are we going to do this? Let's do it this way. And working even with an assistant, an AI assistant, to kind of make that plan, to kind of study it out, maybe get in front of like if you've got a large, like corporate type thing, and you get into a meeting and everyone's kind of collective, like what humans really can bring to the table of like, and they present this plan and everyone kind of goes back and forth on it. And of course you've had the back and forth with all these assistants as you've kind of like thought through it. And then they're just like, okay, we like option B and do it this way. And okay, the result should be a 1 hour presentation, and okay, now go, and like then you get what you're doing is you're essentially orchestrating. You're like a symphony conductor, a CEO. Okay, this may not be clear yet, so we're going to use that family history example, and it should be pretty fun. All right, so imagine orchestrating. So you've got people, very few that do family history. There's not that many people. There we go. But now you can see at the end how this isn't going to take away the role of family historians and genealogists, researchers. It is going to totally change some of their day-to-day activities. The foundations, like what they can do, will expand so big that, like it takes what they maybe could have done themselves in months and months, and it's like turns it into days, if not hours, maybe just several days. And it's like they can get so much more done. And it's like, well, okay, then you're attacking their job, right? If you could do it in just a day what they used to do in months, like how can that not take away their job? You're going to see by this example that it's probably going to create an explosion in the number of people working in this field. Let me see if I can paint this picture. So you have these AI assistants. Okay, I know I do this often, but I want to bring another foundational aspect into it before we go down that, and it should be fun. The other day, I was working on a very technical project. I was thinking about creating, sorry, my little thing's going off over there. Creating let's just play with it. I'm not a computer, developer, and I work with them, and I thought, I want to give this a shot. Let's work on this with this blockchain project. Let's see if I can work with these AI assistant coding type stuff, even though it's in its rudimentary forms right now, and it will be so much more in the future. And I thought, okay, the first thing I need to do is grab all this information about the blockchain, because if I were to work with an AI assistant, I wanted to know as much as possible. So I'm going to feed it dozens of pages. I think it was like 40,000 words of information. And then I said, work on creating this more concise document that has no ambiguities. Don't assume that we know, we can jump to these conclusions. It's going to be used for an AI. It's going to be used for, other developers can use it, as a foundational knowledge. And so then if I were to work on a project with that technology, the first thing I would do is take that document, feed it into the AI and say, you're going to work with me on something. Learn, memorize all this. Not memorize, but understand everything in this. And it's very detailed. And okay, so now it's got all this fun information, right? And now it can really help me with this project more. And maybe it was in some coding language like Python, and there's been a bunch more already done in similar projects to mine. What I do then next, and I actually thought about doing this, and I'm still probably going to do it next week, is take all that code instruction and then example codes and run it through and say, create me a document. Because it's not about this one time, but I can use this in the future, so create me this document. First of all, understand Hive. Here's the little document to understand it. And now, understand, now you have that foundation. Here's how to use Python code for the Hive blockchain. These are just examples. You don't have to know exactly what I'm going on. The point is that research on this thing, have this amazing document that is encapsulate everything that they would need to know, and then let's start rolling. Okay, now that we have all that as a basis, then we're off to our family history discussion finally. And that is what it could be like I'm thinking, okay, I'm orchestrating this. What would I do? I'd sign one of the assistants, AI assistants, to go research the entire Scottish history and create this document. So that off it goes to read dozens, hundreds of books about Scottish history and figure it out. And then I'm okay, I have to kind of give it a, do I give it a thesis? Do I give it a mood? Do I tell it it's in for the purpose of a family history project that we're going to be doing, so that it can kind of go oh, it doesn't need this crazy thesis. It wants kind of facts and figures and things that are going on, and all right, here it is, and here's your 40,000 word document on that, and it's off. It's worked on it. It's read books and books, and it's okay. Well, let's get the perfect summary, the Cliff Notes of Scottish history, and it's working on that for an eternity. In computer terms, an hour, 2 hours. How long do you think it takes a computer to read a book? It's not long, but it's back and forth, and all right, let's go read another book. Okay, how does that jive? How does this do something? And maybe it's a group of assistants. One is kind of coming with a fresh take in this. It's okay, I'm a historical accuracy expert in this, and another one that's resolving conflicts in the thing. And okay, so maybe you've got a group working on it, or maybe just one, because it's not that important part of your project. Okay, what does that have to do with family history? It's doing that, and then maybe you have one set to do the research on every one of your ancestors' villages, the city that they were in. So we got Glasgow, and you got Edinburgh and Stirling, and All right, now they're doing history on those. You got one just like reading the newspapers from the times that when your great grandparents were alive in that area, so they have an intimate knowledge of your specific ancestors' town. And they're off doing things, and maybe it doesn't have to be this involved, but I'm sharing a story of it being super involved just to kind of like get your mind rolling with this. Okay, so they're doing that. Meanwhile, another set of AI agents, because why not? Like, if you've got some money to run, these processes aren't free, they're not cheap. And sorry about the light, the backlight. But you are managing your resource. That's what you are as this kind of CEO, or conductor of this project. You're managing the resources. How many hours of work? And maybe it's not even hours. Maybe it's just like, okay, 10 minutes on this for you, and 50 minutes on this for you, and like 50 of you working on this, and okay. We're not there yet to why this will explode this whole field and more people working, but we're creating this foundation for what it looks like, and the role of the family historian, or you yourself, if you've kind of got a good framework for what is the best approaches to solve a problem. Creative approaches to solve a problem may be what a lot of jobs look like in the future. How can I creatively go about this? And anyways, okay, so then they're off researching that. One of them, maybe you've got several of them just focused on handwriting analysis, because you're going to start looking at original records. So they're off learning about handwriting. And maybe also one is just becoming an expert in slang and creating a document of Scottish 1830s slang, especially from this particular area. What did they mean by that word? Who knows? Okay, well, now you figure it out what these words are, and then this other one has read 10,000 documents of how they write in those times, so it can figure out all those loops and flourishes of these Scottish records. Okay, now we're talking. And so then you have, we can grab data of where their journals, what's their dates and times and places of birth. Let's have another one double checking to see how accurate this old information is and where they found it, and really documenting the sources. That's a big thing in family history now, and probably for a while, until you had all these amateurs working on it and no, it's good enough, it's close enough, or I think that's what it said. I don't really read the records that well, but it looks like a 4. It could be a 9. Who knows? 4 it is. It doesn't matter. We're just trying to do this work, put it in our pedigree chart or something like that. So now you got all this double checking, and others are looking at source documentation. Okay, and so then you're there's got to be some more. Let's figure it out. Let's go to the archives and let's find some of this information. We can sift through data, but we need this information. So you have an AI assistant doing what? Literally calling and talking to archives all throughout Scotland, or these areas and these places. They're they were married in 1834 in this area, and this, so we should call this church building. Gotta make sure I'm turning in the right place. Let's call this church building, or this church parish, and ask for records of that time in those places. And they'll talk to them. They'll figure out, it's $10, or maybe they'll look other places first, of course. Okay, it's not there. Let's, sorry, I just gotta make sure I'm turning in the right spot. Okay, we couldn't find anything, so now let's call. All right, let's give them $10, whatever their records fee is, and tell them where to send it. This isn't crazy. There are, a friend of mine has a company that works in the medical industry, and it will call for their patients in a bunch of different places and get information from them. Because in AI, it doesn't matter if he's like sitting on the phone for 45 minutes. Who cares? Not a big deal whatsoever to the AI. And the calling and negotiating the records fee, also not going to be a big deal. So, sorry, I keep on looking to where I'm going to turn. But this is too much fun to stop. Even when I get there, I'll keep on going. But then, let's say, just a second, let me pause. Okay. And maybe they're not willing to do it, so then another AI goes onto like message boards in that town and just like, or wherever they communicate, and just is like, hey, I'm looking to give someone $20 to go to the local place and document it and then send it to here, and they keep the interactions on the emails, and they're like, okay, good, we'll send you the money. There you go. Now you've got more work being happening. And then what ends up happening with all this? What's the output? Like, you've got all this documents and you've got all these things, and you can get these records, and maybe there's journals and letters written, and you're able to find these. And maybe you even just have some of them. And the other day I asked it, hey, based on our interactions and what I've talked about in the past, would you give me an assessment of what you think about me that maybe I don't even know? And its assessment of me was like, oh my gosh, that's like exactly how I wish people saw me. That is so cool. And so obviously if it was able to read, and there's people that can do this. This isn't something that just a person or an AI could do, but like, you can read and get a feel for what that person was like based on how they wrote and what they wrote about, what they tended to talk a lot about. A smart person, an emotional, intuitive person can get a feel for that. So extrapolate that. Then you're like, oh, okay, well then you're really capable of that. Okay, so all of that, and then to and then it could just really paint this beautiful picture. And that picture could be like give me 5 minutes about it. Give me a podcast, an interaction, like a little 10-minute audio talking about this, or written, of course. Or then you can go like, no, make a book, like about my ancestors. Not just about a ancestor. Maybe it's 10 minutes about this ancestor, or you're like, no, give me a 3-hour book about their whole family, everything you kind of know. Or how about those historical fictions that are like, just, they captivate you. They fill in some of the stuff that you don't have, but they try to use every source that they do have to paint a beautiful picture. And they use like what they understand of these, like the character profiles, and they do this, and you're like, do a whole like 3-generational book story, historical fiction about my ancestors from, this year to this year, and then how they branch out and like they interact often. And it's like, yes, it took some liberties, but if I'm going to listen to a historical fiction, might as well be about my ancestors. Talk about turning the hearts of the father or the children back to their fathers. Talk about like what family history probably should really be about, then, other than just dates and stats and names and where they were born, where they died, but like how they lived and who they really were. The heart, like really turning the hearts of us back to our ancestors, to think about them, to learn from them, to connect with them. And now you've got everyone going, holy crap, I want that, as opposed to 1 in 10,000 that are like, I think I'll pay for some extra names that I can have in my book. No, then you're like, let's so much more. And then everyone's like, I want in, let's do it. And then you got people like collecting data for extra money, and so many more family historians, and so many, it explodes. That one little profession with hundreds or thousands, like merely thousands. I know that seems like a lot, but across the whole world, just thousands of these family historians, to now like, let's get tens of thousands of people that are so capable at crafting this. Can you craft it yourself? Sure. But you are just like, that Jarvie guy, he can really think outside the box, and he will craft me something amazing. And is it him doing all the work? No, because that would take him a lifetime. But could he do it could he get all these, sources together and think of a creative way to approach it? Yes. Okay. That's a little insight. And you could take this to this is so many different types of professions, and just kind of think, am I saying this is exactly how it's going to end up? No, but sure would be nice. Is it here that we could do this now? No, there's so many of that. This is lacking. It frustrates me often about how incapable it is at times, and it will get more capable. And I've been there through the process of the 2 years. I'm like, okay, some of this stuff is starting to look a lot better. All right, that's all I got for you. I hope you enjoyed it, and I don't know, give me another profession for me to like brainstorm on that, and like what could be possible, and how maybe more people will do that profession, but so much more will get done in fun ways. And then some of the professions that people are like, oh, I'm glad no one has to do this anymore. But others would be, maybe that's fine. Okay, bye.